Yeah, I killed them because God told me to. Then let me get to the scripture, but you listen to this all day.
It was cruel, it was heartless, it was inhuman. You didn't just kill my mom, you tried to steal my right to grieve her.
It started with arguments, lies, and broken trust. It ended with prison doors closing forever. Blake Scanlon believed he could explain away a deadly attack, while Frederick Reer left one family searching for answers for 8 years. These weren't just courtroom sentences. They were real tragedies, where every verdict came far too late for the victims. Let's begin.
And he stabbed Alexis Avery 28 times. He stabbed her in the neck, piercing her jugular. He stabbed her over and over again.
A family home became the scene of a harrowing crime. A 20-year-old mother was found fatally wounded, and just moments later, a text message was sent. It read only 2 words: "I'm sorry." In January 2019, police were called to a home on White Street in Westfield, Massachusetts, after receiving an emergency call. When officers entered the house, they found 20-year-old Alexis Avery with multiple stab wounds. Despite efforts to help her, she died from her injuries. Alexis and Blake Scanlon had previously been in a relationship, shared a young child, and were living together at the time. Investigators quickly focused on Scanlon. According to court documents, after calling an emergency, Scanlon admitted he killed his girlfriend and sent a text message to his mother that read, "I'm sorry." In the same message, he claimed he had discovered that Alexis had been unfaithful. Police arrested him at the scene and charged him with murder, household assault and assault and battery with a deadly weapon. Blake Scanlon pleaded not guilty to all charges and remained in custody at the Hampshire Jail and House of Correction while awaiting trial. His defense argued that the evidence supported a lesser charge of involuntary manslaughter rather than first-degree murder. The trial lasted 3 days. During closing arguments, prosecutors argued that the evidence showed a deliberate killing, while the defense asked jurors to reject a first-degree murder conviction. Prosecutors argued that jealousy after learning Alexis was allegedly seeing someone else drove Scanlon to commit the fatal attack. The defense challenged the level of intent, but the jury ultimately rejected that argument. After deliberating for less than a day, the jury found Blake Scanlon guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole after being convicted of the first-degree murder of Alexis Avery. He also received an additional sentence of up to 10 years for assault and battery with a dangerous weapon, to be served concurrently. However, he remained motionless while the verdict was read. In a separate case, he also faced allegations that he tried to arrange the killings of a witness and a prosecutor while in jail. His sister said that,
"As I remember that Alexis is gone, it wasn't a nightmare. It is my life, truly indeed a life sentence for me."
Alexis Avery's life was cut short at just 20 years old, leaving behind a young child who will grow up without a mother. A relationship that once brought a family together ended in sorrow, and the guilty verdict brought a measure of accountability, though it could never bring Alexis back. One guilty verdict was delivered without a single visible emotion, but the next courtroom would be far more disturbing, as a man calmly insisted that God had ordered him to kill the 2 people who raised him.
God commanded me to kill them, and I did it. I don't care what you sentence me to today. So I'm looking back out to the grace of God, but you should be worried about yourself.
A shocking crime overshadowed a family holiday week. A husband and wife were found dead inside their home, and the suspect fled the state. But when he finally faced the court, his words made the case even more chilling. Around the 4th of July holiday in 2023, 32-year-old Anthony Lewis Jr. was living with his mother, 65-year-old Kathy Guillaume, and his 73-year-old stepfather, Robert Bob Guillaume, in their Rotterdam, New York home. Investigators determined that Lewis brutally stabbed both victims to death. After the killings, he stayed inside the house with their bodies for more than a day. He then took his stepfather's SUV, left the state with the family's 2 dogs, and drove to Pennsylvania, where he eventually crashed the vehicle. Meanwhile, worried relatives contacted the police after being unable to reach the couple. Officers entered the home on July 7th and discovered both victims with multiple stab wounds. Detectives traced Lewis's moments after he fled New York in the stolen vehicle. He was arrested in Pennsylvania and returned to face trial. Prosecutors presented evidence showing he remained inside the home for up to 26 hours after the killings before escaping. He was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, grand larceny, and unauthorized use of a vehicle. During his trial, Lewis took the witness stand against his attorney's advice and calmly described the killings in graphic detail. At his sentencing, he again admitted responsibility, read passages from Scripture, and repeatedly claimed that God had commanded him to kill his mother and stepfather. He showed no remorse and refused to apologize to the victim's family. Lewis insisted that
God commanded me to kill it, and I did it. I don't care what you sentenced me to today, so I'm looking back out to the grace of God, but you should be worried about yourself.
his defense attorney argued that Lewis appeared to suffer from an undiagnosed mental illness and asked the court to consider that during sentencing. Prosecutors rejected that argument and described the murders as deliberate and especially brutal. In May 2025, a jury deliberated for less than an hour before finding Anthony Lewis Jr. guilty of 2 counts of first-degree murder, grand larceny, and unauthorized use of a vehicle. On July 30, 2025, the judge sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole for each murder conviction. He also received 3.5 to 7 years for unauthorized use of a vehicle and 2 to 4 years for grand larceny. In addition, he was ordered to pay nearly $19,000 in restitution for funeral expenses and the cost of cleaning the home. The victim's family described Kathy and Bob as loving, generous people who had welcomed Lewis into their home and treated him like family. During sentencing, their daughter and sister spoke about the memories they had lost forever and urged the court to impose the maximum punishment. Even the judge apologized to the family after Lewis refused to show any regret, saying he had hoped to hear something different, but was not surprised by the defendant's words. A husband and wife never made it past the holiday weekend, but our next case wasn't marked by a frenzied attack. It began with a desperate emergency call that was meant to hide a calculated, horrific act.
My father's actions took my mom's life. They took my future with her.
A respected fire battalion chief claimed his wife had suffered a medical emergency. But as investigators uncovered the truth, that emergency call became the center of a murder investigation. In January 2024, emergency crews responded to the home of 49-year-old Kevin West and his wife Marcy West in Camas, Washington. Kevin told first responders that Marcy had suffered a seizure and that he had tried to save her life. But the medical examiner reached a different conclusion. Marcy had died from asphyxia caused by blunt force trauma to her neck, and her death was ruled a homicide. As detectives dug deeper, they discovered that Kevin had been having an affair while still married. Although he claimed he had no intention of leaving his wife, deleted text messages revealed he had planned to meet with a lawyer to finalize a divorce. Investigators also learned the couple was facing more than $100,000 in debt, adding another possible source of tension. Authorities examined Kevin's statements, reviewed digital evidence, and recovered deleted messages from his phone. The evidence contradicted his account of what happened the night Marcy died. Detectives arrested the former Camas, Washington Fire Department battalion chief and charged him with first and second-degree murder. During the trial, prosecutors argued that Kevin staged the incident to look like a medical emergency. The defense challenged the emergency response provided by paramedics, but prosecutors maintained that the evidence clearly showed Marcy had been intentionally killed. After hearing the evidence, the jury reached its verdict. Prosecutors pointed to Kevin's affair, his plans to divorce Marcy, and the couple's serious financial difficulties as factors that may have contributed to the crime. Together, they painted a picture of a marriage undergoing strain. On January 20, 2026, a jury found Kevin West guilty of first-degree and second-degree murder in the death of his wife. On February 27, 2026, a Clark County judge sentenced him to 25 years in prison. During the sentencing hearing, tears filled his eyes, and he held the woman's hand while listening to the verdict. Marcy's daughter, Megan West, addressed the court during sentencing. She said,
She was loving and she was my safe place. And I miss her every day.
Seeing her father was painful because she no longer recognized the man she once knew. The sentence closed a long legal battle, but it could never undo the pain suffered by Marcy's family. One wife never made it out of her own home alive, but our next case shows the harrowing end of a young woman's repeated suffering, ending with a fight she could not survive.
You had so many other choices, but you chose to end Talla's fight. You decided to put your hand on her.
A young woman was found unconscious in the back seat of a vehicle, fighting for her life. 6 days later, she was gone. What investigators uncovered would reveal a pattern of deadly acts that ended in a murder conviction. On March 17, 2024, emergency crews responded to the 200 block of Eddy Street in Newark, Ohio, where they found 21-year-old Tala Smith unconscious in the backseat of a vehicle. Paramedics restored her pulse before she was rushed to a local hospital and later flown to a hospital in Columbus. Despite doctors' efforts, Tala died 6 days later. Investigators found she had numerous bruises and abrasions in different stages of healing. Police believed many of the injuries had been caused recently. As detectives continued their investigation, they obtained search warrants for the vehicle and the home of 23-year-old Andrew Hoskinson. Inside, they discovered evidence of ongoing household chaos, including signs that Tala had been strangled before her death. Hoskinson was initially charged with domestic violence and strangulation. After Tala died from her injuries, prosecutors upgraded the case to include murder charges. He pleaded not guilty and was held on a $1.5 million bond while awaiting trial. As the trial approached, Hoskinson changed his plea. He admitted responsibility by pleading guilty to one count of murder, avoiding a full trial and bringing the case to a close. He said,
"I'm sorry that this has happened. If I could change things, I could."
While prosecutors did not identify a single motive, the evidence pointed to an ongoing pattern of household chaos that ultimately turned fatal. In October 2025, Andrew Hoskinson pleaded guilty to one count of murder. In exchange for his plea, prosecutors dismissed additional charges of murder, aggravated murder, felonious assault, and strangulation. A Licking County judge sentenced him to 15 years to life in prison and credited him with 576 days already served in jail. Tala Smith was only 21 years old. What began as repeated carnage ended with the void of a young woman's life. Her mother said,
"If my daughter cannot leave and earn, why does he get to leave a cell?"
although the guilty plea spared her loved ones a lengthy trial, it could never replace the future that was taken from her. A guilty plea brought one family's courtroom battle to an end, but our next case shows a mother of 4 vanished without a trace, leaving her loved ones searching for answers for nearly 8 years.
How could you do this to someone you claim to love? How could any human being do this to another person?
A mother of 4 vanished without a trace, leaving her family searching for answers for nearly 8 years. When the truth finally emerged, it revealed a heart-wrenching crime and a mystery that remains unsolved. On July 11, 2017, 36-year-old Amanda Dean, a devoted mother of 4, was last seen in Collins, Ohio. When she suddenly stopped contacting her family, concern quickly turned into fear. Days passed with no phone calls, no messages, and no sign of where she had gone. Despite repeated searches and countless tips, Amanda seemed to have vanished without a trace. As months became years, the case grew colder, leaving her children and loved ones trapped in a painful cycle of hope and uncertainty, wondering what had happened to her. In December 2022, Huron County detectives reopened the case. The Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation joined the search, and in November 2023, investigators executed a search warrant at the home of Frederick Reer's father. Authorities never disclosed what they found, but the investigation soon led to a breakthrough. On February 9, 2025, Amanda's former boyfriend, Frederick Reer, was arrested. He later pleaded guilty to involuntary manslaughter, gross mistreatment of a corpse, and tampering with evidence. Investigators determined that he caused Amanda's death inside their home, cleaned the scene, and disposed of the evidence. Authorities have not publicly revealed a motive behind Amanda's death. The reason for the crime remains unknown. On Monday, Reer was sentenced to 14 years in prison, just short of the maximum 18-year sentence. As the verdict was read, Reer offered an apology, saying,
I'd just like to say I'm sorry to the Dean family, sorry to my family, sorry to the community.
During the hearing, prosecutors said they believe Amanda's remains were burned and the ashes were scattered into a nearby creek. Her body has never been recovered. Although the case has reached a legal conclusion, Amanda's family is still without the closure they hoped for. Someone from his family said,
"And it hurts, knowing that none of my brothers will get to see her ever again."
They continue to mourn the loss of a loving mother, while facing the painful reality that they may never be able to bring her home. These courtroom reactions marked the end of criminal trials, but not the end of pain. Whether they cried, apologized, or remained emotionless, every sentence served as a reminder that justice can punish the guilty, but it can never restore the lives that were taken. And if you want even more content, Join our membership for exclusive videos and early access to every upload. Your support helps us keep telling these stories. Thanks for watching.